take off the front bumper here, which is held on by a couple bolts, some plastic clips, and then also some that are in the fender well as well. We also need to take off the OEM intakes there, so a combination to loosen up some clamps. Also got to get the MAF sensors off here and port it over to the new intakes. And then probably the most tricky part is that there is like a little passageway here that's a little cramped, and so we'll need to widen it with a Dremel or a drill, so that way it doesn't pinch on our tubes and impact the power gains. So pretty straightforward. Let's get started. Got all of those front clips and bolts off. I've got a combination of bolts and some aftermarket washers. Why aren't all of them switched? I don't know. I was kind of an idiot a couple years ago. Next up, this one is going to be kind of a pain. It's a little hard to see, but you can see where the ratchet's attached to. It's another 10 millimeter that's right next to the headlight. So make sure you got an extension on there. And there'll be that on the driver and the passenger side. You can see progress here. The bumper's pretty loose on the front end. Got all these clips off. And when you're doing these guys, be careful to make sure you don't lose that 10 millimeter into the depth. Got the fender wheel liner pulled back. See, there's another 10 millimeter that we got to pull off. A little bit further, there should be another one, but mine is gone, victim of putting in my custom headlights. So we'll get this guy off and do the same thing on the passenger side, and the bumper should be good to be lifted off. Now, the only thing we have left is we got to take out the fog light over here. That's just, we're gonna loosen it up and pull the bulb out. On the left hand side, most of you guys aren't gonna have to worry about this, but this is the OEM DRLs. It's like a $600 option from Infinity. That's why most G's on the street don't have it. I was lucky enough to pick up a set of these brand new in the box, but used. So no way in heck I was paying $600 for a couple LEDs, but that's what this wire is here. So 99% of you guys can ignore this step. But for me, I've got to unplug those and then we'll be able to pull the bumper off. Got the bumper resting on some blankets so it doesn't get stretched out. So here's a better look at those little pass-throughs that we're going to have to skinny up. So this guy right over here. But first up, we're going to take off the OEM intake on this side. We'll do one side at a time. And while we're in there, it's the proverbial, while I'm doing this, I might go ahead and clean out those throttle bodies. First step here, use the 10 millimeter, pull these guys out. Oh, come on. There we go. And you know what, my engine bay might be a little dirty, but check this out right here. Got a naked VQ right here. So from here, the job gets pretty straightforward. Just need to loosen up that bracket, these clamps here, and this MAF sensor. So we'll get started. All right, as you can see, stock airbox is completely out. I've got the pipe out as well. It's fairly simple, 10 millimeter bolt right there. Just make sure you pop out with a screwdriver the MAF sensor clip from the stock airbox, and then you just pull up and it'll come out. So I've got the MAF just resting here. But you know, we talked about the throttle body earlier, and you look at that. Yeah, we're gonna need to clean that for sure. All right, last thing to remove before we start to widen this out is on the back end here. Got this little plastic air duct. So there's a clip here Gotta undo this 10mm bolt right here, and then this clip as well, and it should just pop right out. That's that last plastic piece I was talking about. Pretty much. Just had to pop this out of there, that was annoying. Not really a pain, just gotta put some elbow grease into it. So, next up, probably take a quick break here. Run to the store, grab some throttle body cleaner. Get that all tidied up while I'm in here. And one other thing, the kit is also going to replace these breather lines here, so got to make sure we take this off. So I'll be knocking that real quick, and then we'll get back to it.
20 minutes later.
Looking nice and clean. That stuff was disgusting, bro. Just take a 10mm out here. So this thing's basically ready to go. We already loosened this off first to get the initial hose off. Now we're just gonna take a plier to pinch that guy and then peel it free. Back from a little break. As you can see, started installing the intake. So we've got the top hose over here. Pouring over the MAF right now. I'm making progress. Starting to lose a little light, but we got LED lights in the garage, so should be able to keep pushing for a little bit longer. Here is disconnect the breather hose down there. I had already done the top portion of it, but this kit completely replaces that, so gotta grab that clamp. Had to pause a little bit since we have toddlers. Kind of hard to do car projects in one day. So we're into a snag. The kit wants you to reuse these two spring clamps from the original breather hose. Problem is, diameter on this new thick one is like 1.25 inches. And messing with it for a little bit, no way it's getting on there. So instead of going through all that pain, I just went to the local Ace, picked up a nice T-clamp here, and we're gonna use that to make our install. All right, sick. So I'll put it in together. Look at the quality on that. I mean, it looks dead on like the Z1 kit. Just missing a couple of decals. All right, next up, let's go ahead and start trimming this guy out with the old Dremel. All right, got the passenger side all in there, so you can see. Took the Dremel, pulled a decent amount of material out of there, as you can see. So just be sure to have safety glasses on. Just use one of these rounded attachments and just worked my way up, but that just frees up some clearance per the Z1 instructions, so you don't have any pinching on here, so you lose potential performance. Then you just really feed that through. Made it to the piping, and don't forget to preload one of these couplers, otherwise you'll be pretty mad at yourself. So look at that compared to Wolf. Filter new in the bag. You can see my kit came with an extra clamp for each air filter. Then you got the union, the barb size, what goes in the filter. But it looks like I'm gonna have some extra clamps because I've got 5 left over. All good. So now, time to do the same thing on the driver's side. So just same procedure, loosening up this clamp here to the throttle body. We've got a couple more of those spring clamps that we got to loosen here and here, and of course they conveniently put the tabs underneath, so that's gonna be tricky getting underneath and squeezing it. Gotta undo this one. I've got the MAF already loosened up, And then we'll be able to pop open that filter. And then of course we gotta shave this guy with the Dremel on. Of course this one's gonna be a little bit trickier because we've got these hoses in the way, so gotta be careful that we don't chop them up with our Dremel as we're going after it. So let's get to it. All right, driver's side's pulled out. Pretty easy to do. One thing I also noticed, I'm going to do that on the passenger side, is that this guy here, this bracket here really only exists to hold the stock gearboxes, and since we don't need it, we don't need to look at this rusty piece.
Later that same evening.
We got the main coupler over here. We've got that vacuum breather line that goes right back to the PCB. I've loosely put those guys in. Just want to show you real quick. So on the duct here, it's a little bit tighter than on the passenger side. So part of that's because we've got these lines over here and these lines here. So you want to be real careful. I've kind of marked up with the tube how much to cut. So I'm going to shave more on the left-hand side over here, and then just a little bit on the top right here to get that extra clearance. Guys, driver's side intake is pretty much there. Got the coal cut out. Had to go a little deeper than what I originally marked out. You can kind of see it's a little dark there. So feeding it in. Pro tip, make sure you preload your clamp here. I've got that taped up here. And then I'm just gonna wiggle and mate these two. There's the finished product. Perfectly lined up. Really changes up the engine bay. I definitely got to get this cleaned up. So all that's left is start up and see how it sounds.